We now welcome to Ebru today Jim Harrington, a human rights attorney with nearly 4 decades of experience and founder and director of the Texas Civil Rights Project. Harrington is the author of Wrestling with Free Speech, Religious Freedom and Democracy in Turkey, The Political Trials and Times of Fethullah Gülen. First, we'd like to find out what made you write that book.
Well, you know, I was on an interfaith trip to Turkey, and after I came back, I thought about it and was approached about writing this book that no one had written anything about the interface of a political trial and the further democratization in Turkey. So I took a year and a half of evenings and weekends and came up with a book. It was fascinating. I've always been interested in international human rights, and this gave me an opportunity to talk about the development of democracy in Turkey and the interplay with the European Union as it seeks to join it.
And he specifically is a very fascinating and important presence.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You know, he's had a lot to do with building a civil society in Turkey and enhancing, helping the middle class develop in Anatolia region on the Asian side, and has played a major role, I think, in trying to democratize and bring civil liberty to the country. And this was basically a political trial, the establishment resisting that, and you know, we see that happen quite often. What was unique about this political trial is that usually people lose. And in this case, Fethullah Gülen won the trial, took 8 years, and won the trial. But the whole interplay that went on during that time, I think, was very influential in strengthening democracy and civil liberty in Turkey, religious freedom and press freedom. So it was fascinating development.
During the course of writing your book about him, did you get a sense that his accomplishments were being watched in countries surrounding Turkey? Did you see his influence spreading?
Oh yeah, I think that's the thing that's impressed me, is that it's become a movement that really is external, and it's reaching out to other countries. It's very active in the United States, very active in Europe. You know, and this idea of developing more civil society, becoming more democratic, and working on developing institutions that are not necessarily political, but bring about more participation in society. So I think that you do see it expanding. I think it's fascinating to me that you see a religious movement that has Sufi Islamic base reaching out to other religions and trying to get folks to understand each other and work together. I think it's a good lesson for the state of the of our country at this point, where we have so much polarization and lack of dialogue, is to have a movement come along and say, you know, we may not agree on stuff, but we need to talk about it. And then if we can find common approaches or common solutions, we got to do it. Right now we have so much polarization.
Sure. Don't we see a similar setting where between the Israelis and Palestinians, where the women have come together and said, enough of the bloodshed, let's find common ground?
Yes. I think that's very important to do. And you see that happening. You see that happen a number of times in recent history, where people just get fed up and just say, we've got to make change. You know, and we ought to support that. I mean, certainly we ought to support what's going on with the women that you're talking about, but we also need to work in our own country. You know, it's just, I've never seen the kind of polarization that we have. And we have such enormous problems, you know, education being an awful problem
Which is common to both sides.
Exactly. So why not try to get a solution? And that's what I give great credit to the movement. And the emphasis on the education, I think, is very important.
Yes, there's something called the Gulen schools. What is that? Is that a separate system, or is it integrated within the systems there?
Well, the Gulen movement is very decentralized. You know, it took a long time for me to understand that because, you know, being a lawyer, and we always look at stuff at hierarchical in the United States, in tight organization. But it's more of a movement that cooperates and associates different parts of it. And there are schools that start up by folks that participate in the movement, but they're independent schools. Like we have a system in Texas called Harmony, and there's a system in the Midwest and all of that. But it's a non-sectarian, it's not proselytizing in the sense of trying to bring people into a certain religion. It's showing good example and emphasizing education, how important education is for kids. And these schools have a great success rate, and I think it's because the teachers are so focused and the kids are so focused and the parents understand this is a great opportunity. You know, and that's, I think, an important component of the movement, is to emphasize
So perhaps
education.
all of this to capsulize, it's about what's right versus what's dogma.
That's absolutely right. At the end of the day, I think the most important thing for us is to learn how to live good lives, right? And it doesn't matter if you're Catholic, as I am, or if you're Muslim, or if you're Jewish, or whatever, right? That's the idea, is to come together, to work together, and to strengthen and foster the human community. And I think the movement contributes to that. And for that reason, I just I'm very impressed with it.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is impressive. And hopefully it'll make its way more here so we become less divisive.
Yes.
Thank you so much, really.
My pleasure.